What is up, people? So here's another tier list video, and in this one I'm basically going to be ranking every single master prestige / max level icon. And one thing before we start, in particular for Modern Warfare 2 and 3 for 2022 and 2023, I'm going to be counting those as one group, basically just one whole group of max levels. You'll see once I eventually get to those particular games and showing off their icons, and you'll see how they work. So anyways, let's get started.
Alrighty, so the first one we have up is the max rank for Call of Duty 4. And right off the bat, this is definitely more on the simple side. Although it is simplistic, it does have a nice clean look to it. The edges of the golden cross, and also having that little bit of glareness as well. And even the little gray specks in between the spaces just gives it that nice little finishing touch. All coming together in a simplistic way. It's definitely the little detailings on the cross that definitely makes up for it. And with that, our first ranking for this will be put at a B. Up next is the max rank for Call of Duty World at War. And basically the same kind of thoughts can be applied to this one that I did for the COD 4 one. Visually, it's more simplistic. 2 stars that fill up in between their spaces with a little red circle in the middle. And the detailings definitely make up for it. And just looking at the stars, you can see the sort of dirty and grittiness of them, following along with what World at War is visually. Same ideas will be placed at a B. Next is the max level for the classic Modern Warfare 2. This one honestly just looks like a downgrade, especially when comparing it to the previous levels. Just straight up just looks like it really doesn't give that much of a senses for a max level at all, like visually. Although I do like with the skull, you can kind of see sort of like the different sort of lighting / shadows of it. It at least has a little bit of an interesting detail, but that's generally about it. It's really not the worst thing, it's just a bit of a step down. With all that in mind, this will be our first C. Next level is from Black Ops 1. Now this one definitely has more of a master prestige / max level kind of look. It is very sleek looking. Seeing the little glare on the blades, the different lighting and shadows on the bone and the skull, very menacing looking teeth, and everything goes together well. Although I will say, maybe one little component somewhere like within like the bones or something could have been like a nice final touch for this, but still, overall, this is incredibly solid. Love how this prestige looks. This is a definite A for sure. The next master prestige is from Modern Warfare 3. So we've definitely taken a bit of a step back, and this is a lot more simplistic. A golden skull with bits of sort of emphasis and having these little shadow bits around it, a bunch of blades that resemble wings, and then an X on top that also has some bits of shadowing and 3D look to it. But it sure does feel like it's just missing something to make this a lot more worthy just visually. And to be fair, once you reach past your first 10 prestiges, your next 10 are basically the same exact icon. The only difference is the Roman numeral on top that changes. So not only is it simplistic, but it's definitely a bit underwhelming since it doesn't even have any sort of like actual change to it, especially for a 20th prestige. Like I said, definitely underwhelming. Even with the critiques, this will gladly go along into B. Next prestige is from Black Ops 2. Now, to me, this one right here is the best one ever. This has all the things that contrast a perfect balance. I just like the overall design that went into this. Seeing these past prestiges just impaled on 3 different blades with little bits of a fire effect underneath, and as well these past prestiges as well just being beaten up, broken. And I would honestly say that this is, to me, the only prestige that I would say gives off an actual like visually resembling worthiness of a master prestige. And just in general, the overall colorings of it is just spot on too. This is an absolute perfect prestige. I absolutely love and adore it. This is gonna be the only S tier. Next prestige is from Call of Duty Ghosts. Now this one isn't too bad. This one definitely has more of a cartoonish / I would even say watercolorish kind of look to it. Especially looking at the skull, that really gives me that kind of watercolor kind of visualization. These interesting looking flows with the shadows and the different colorings of the bone. It does look interesting. Other little details as well, like the horns on the skull, the lightning bolts, and even the ace of spades in the back as well. Not only does it help give a form of curvature for this design, but as well in contrasting another form of color, since everything on this is pretty much gold. So it does help a bit in that regard. Now, although I do like the different components that they did here, I do think that it is a bit much. I think they definitely needed to take a step back and probably remove some of the things on this and maybe give some more actual attention to some of the other details. I do like the detailing, it's just a bit much. All goodies taken into consideration, this will gladly join along in B. Next prestige is from Advanced Warfare. Right off the bat, this one to me just seems generic. The overall setup of this one just looks so typical. Skull face with a helmet and having these guns in the back, and then this weird sort of shield looking shape, and as well the text on it. This is nowhere close visually to something that is even worthy of being Master Prestige. No component in this particular Prestige really stands out, except I will probably say just literally the skull, or I guess the lettering, but either way, this one visually is really not worth it. One thing I will say I liked about this is the kind of glowing blue effects going on, as well even on the letterings too. That's probably the more interesting thing about this. But again, it is very lacking in anything visually worthy, and it's just generic. Pretty unfortunate stuff. You can go right into C. Next prestige is from Black Ops 3. And this one is a definite step up. It just has that kind of sharpness to the overall different color palettes in this. It honestly reminds me of sort of like the cartoonish look in a way from the COD Ghost one, except this one looks a lot more polished. And while this one does have a bit of things going on as well, it definitely is not as overwhelming. Balances it all in a good way. The different glowing effects on the different jewelries, the glowing eyes, the shininess of the skulls and the horns. The coloring contrast in this one is what really makes it up for me. The thing I will say is I probably would have liked a little bit more shining kind of glare on the actual jewelry, but other than that, this is well rounded in their overall coloring. Pretty solid, can't lie. You'll be comfortably going in an A. Next prestige is from Infinite Warfare. Yeah, this one, I would even consider this one simplistic anymore. I honestly would consider it more as minimalistic, just very little detailing as possible. This one's definitely more on the disappointing side of just max prestige / max level in general. It's simply just a hexagon shape with a symbol of a dragon on it. And yeah, they did give it a little bit of sort of like these changing colors and glow to it, but that's literally about it. There's really not much else to say about this, and I don't see why anyone would ever want to even go for this high of a prestige if this is what it looks like. Not really sure what they were thinking here. Yeah, that's the first D. Next prestige is from Modern Warfare Remastered. This one is definitely another disappointing looking prestige. And honestly, not all the components really blend together here. The only components I would say work in this is basically the golden eagle spreading its wings and then the blue circle with the stars. Those two work together. But then when you look at the actual star itself, it honestly just kind of feels like a last second placement just to have something in order to fill the void inside the circle. But yeah, I mean, this one, again, it's definitely disappointing, and I just think there needed to be some other things as well in this in order to make it actually worthy. So yeah, another underwhelming prestige for sure. Yep, no doubt at all. This is another C. Next prestige is from COD World War II. I do like the contrast between the gold and the green. They do give off a sort of gold / emerald kind of look to them. And as well, the actual star symbol in this actually blends in with the design, at least compared from the last one. The outer circle and having these little forms of carvings, and as well this central globe as well, indicating you kind of dominating the world. At least I get that kind of idea. The thing I will say is that I wish more of the green would actually kind of go in certain parts throughout this prestige. An example would be with the actual crowns, just to have more of that green consistency throughout. And now this is going to be a complaint you'll hear, at least for some of the upcoming prestiges or max levels, because I just think it is a very typical kind of component, and that feature is basically the crown. And you can clearly see in this one there are a couple of crowns. It definitely would have been nice if they took away these crowns and they added other detailings that maybe go along more with the actual, like, for example, carvings of like the outer circle, or just something along those lines. But it's still a visually decent prestige. Not necessarily my favorite, but still solid. Not too bad, COD World War II. You can comfortably go in a B. Next prestige is from Black Ops 4. This one doesn't really work for me. I do like the sort of, shine kind of effect going on with the actual skull part. It really kind of gives off a sort of like comic style kind of look to it. And just the overall kind of shiny effects throughout. Just highlighting on these different color components. It's honestly kind of giving me a sort of ancient artifact kind of vibe. And the different choices of colors, and especially the crown, do help on that. But again, even with those detailings, I just think they're trying a bit too hard with this one. My main problem with this one is definitely just the different choices of colors. And I don't think they necessarily go so well together. And not just the color variations, but as well, just the crown alone is like, to me, a very typical component. You reaching Master Prestige and now you put on the crown, you're like the king. It really just feels typical. It's definitely not the worst prestige, I would say. I just think some of the coloring choices just needed a bit of a second thought in them actually working together, and as well as some other features. And with that, welcome Black Ops 4 to the C family. And now we're moving on to the max level for Modern Warfare 2019. Obviously, around this time, this is when they got rid of Prestige and then they basically just did seasonal levels. And so that's why in this case, I'm now considering it as max levels and not max Prestige. Now, I can't remember for the life of me, but I really don't recall Modern Warfare 2019 really having Prestige looking icons. And I tried going online to find anything, but I couldn't get anything. But since they went with seasonal levels, this is basically what they went with. It does look more like traditional leveling from old COD games before your prestige. It's very simple. It does give a little bit of a nostalgia, but it's nothing to rave about. Yeah, that's about it. Now, I did not have this for my tier list, but if I had to put this in there, I would probably put it at a D. Next prestige is from Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Now, in this game, they brought back prestiges, and I'm just going with whatever the most recent prestige was for this game, and it was this one. This one just kind of feels like another typical kind of master prestige. A crown on top and having these wings next to it, a ribbon at the bottom with a ruby in between. Like I said, this to me just screams typical, at least with the features. Not necessarily a fan of this one. Visually, it does have a polished look to it, but I just don't think it's that unique or interesting about it. It honestly could be worse, but still, not that good. See? And now we're going back to the max rank per season system with Call of Duty Vanguard. I'm saying this right now, these different max levels don't really give me the impression of a max level or even a prestige of any sorts. They really just look more like medals. I also just don't like the fact that there's not really much of a differentiating look to them, in the sense that they all literally have the same sort of light and shadow effect going on. The top part of the max level having more light, and then the bottom having a bit more of a shadow. And that's literally the same exact thing for these four right here. I guess one credit I will give these max levels is that per season, they do kind of go up in overall design in a way, but as well in at least adding more forms of color to them. Because definitely the first one is the worst. That one is definitely the most boring. But then the other three definitely do make up for it in a way. But overall, this is definitely more of bottom of the barrel kind of max levels. There definitely needed to be more interesting details or just emphasis on these that actually can make them stand out in a much more visually worthy manner, especially in the lighting feature specifically, more than anything. The design for them wasn't bad, but still, either way, all of them can go in a D. Next max levels is from Modern Warfare 2 2022. Yeah, I'm not saying much for these. If someone were to come up to me and show me these different symbols, I would honestly think that these are just for parts of a calling card or an emblem. These are animated, which I guess is probably the only interesting thing about these. And then the person tells me that no, these are actually prestiges. I would laugh at their fucking face. These do not look like prestiges or max levels, especially the last one. There was no effort. Nobody cared about the max levels for this game in particular. The worst of the worst, without a doubt in my mind. Yeah, don't talk to me about these ones ever again. All F. No question. Let's move on. Now we move on to the max levels for Modern Warfare 3 2023. I guess with this one, they literally took inspiration from the original Master Prestige from the original Modern Warfare 2, because it does have that same kind of look, except this one's a lot more polished. There's really not much of a difference in design with them, except with whatever animal skull is in the center of it. And these are really underwhelming, especially knowing the fact that the past levels, as you rank up before you get to these max levels, they are far more interesting looking than this. And for whatever reason, each of these have a different gem in them, which again, that's not really gonna sway anything in terms of my thoughts. And this is what you get every time throughout each season. At least with the Modern Warfare 2 one, the original, that one was its own thing. And it was only one once you reach that max prestige. Yet again, another super underwhelming kind of max level. It's literally a carbon copy per season. And like I said, the only different thing about them is whatever the animal skull is. Pretty lazy, to be honest. Yeah, all in D. And lastly, we go back to prestiges once again, ending it with Black Ops 6. And yeah, we sadly end with a underwhelming prestige. I do like the three-headed dogs and showing off their teeth, trying to look menacing and aggressive. It does fit along decently, but there definitely needed to be other components that I would say match along with the three-headed dogs that can emphasize more on their sort of just aggressive looks. And like I said, for the AW prestige, I definitely do not like the text. I just think it's an unnecessary feature to have. Everything else of the emblem, whatever details, factors, whatever it may be, should speak out more than just having a plain text. I think they were trying to represent some sort of dog collar, and if that's the case, then I guess it makes sense for it to then have like some sort of a, I guess like what would be like the name tag for a dog, but except in this case, it would say Master Prestige. I guess, but again, it's just not working for me. And plus, there's only 2 forms of colors, and while previous prestiges did have only 2 forms of colors, they were at least spread out and just placed a lot better. Yeah, this prestige is okay. And with that, this will mark as the final C.
And there we go. That is my entire tier list of all the different max level / master prestiges throughout the different COD games. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with this list or not, which ones you would personally move up a tier or you just personally like more than another. But yeah, that's it. And I'll see you guys in another video. Later.